what we really did just to even go out of our way was that, like with top syndicators, if they offered like a due diligence guide, I downloaded all of them. Like I was not trying to reinvent the wheel, and none of us should be, And so then we looked at all of them and condensed it into our own and was like, okay, like if this is what all the top syndicators are looking at, this is what we need to look at too. But with that, like, can you make more videos? Can you take more pictures so that like you can almost recreate it so that we can see it as well? And so that's really what it turned into, was just asking for a little bit more so that we had an idea. And that's really what made it work. But it was just by asking, like if we wouldn't have ever asked, like, hey, can you take more pictures? Who knows if they ever would have.
You're listening to the Rich State of Mind Show, the podcast made to make you the total package in the entrepreneurial world and give you what we call a rich state of mind. If you are here looking to learn about real estate investing, marketing, elevating your business, and developing your mindset to get to the next level, then you are at the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join our community on richstateofmind.com. Now here's your host, Anthony Ritchie.
Hey, Michael and Suzy, thank you for taking the time. We said offline, I said, you're taking the time Oconus, or you're taking your time out of the U.S. So if you could please tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you're right now, where you guys are at, and then where you're investing in the continental U.S.
Absolutely. So Michael and I live in Cambridge, England right now. I'm actually a full-time real estate professional, but I was like a program manager for a biotech company over here for about, I guess, a little over a year. But Michael is.
Yeah, I'm still active duty Air Force.
Awesome.
And I'm towards the end of my career. And, my dream job for the Air Force is going back and teaching at the Air Force Academy. I was teaching there for a while, and they want me to continue teaching. So they sent me to get a Ph.D. Nice. And so I'll eventually return back to the Academy, and that'll be my last tour before I retire. Just teaching with a PhD. So I'm actually getting my PhD here at the University of Cambridge in biochemistry. So, and similar to Suzy as well, like my previous job in the Air Force, so my main career field, if you will, is program management, like project management, acquisitions, things like that. So we have quite a bit of experience in acquisitions here in the household, which is great.
And that's a great, that's a great thing that they're providing a PhD for you, and then you'll get to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very fortunate. The Air Force has taken good care of me. I feel like I tell everybody, I put in my time in the Air Force for the last 17 years, and now I'm getting paid back at the end with, hooking it up with a PhD and being able to teach, which is my favorite thing to do. I just love teaching. So I'm just giving back in that way. So love it.
I love how y'all are set up. So let's get into it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how y'all got into real estate investing.
No, absolutely. It's a good story. So with COVID-19 in the lockdowns, the first lockdown over here was a little over 100 days, but everyone was sent home from work, and you could only leave the house once a day to like work out or go to the grocery store, or the pharmacy. So Michael and I were like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because we don't know how long the lockdown is going to last, but we know it's going to be here for a while. And so we started a mini book club with one another. And one of those books was Multiple Streams of Income. And Michael would read the book first, and then I would. And he got to the second section of it, and it talked about real estate. And he's like, just skip the first section. Please just read about real estate. And once we found out that the entire world of real estate had gone online, because we just dug a little deeper, on social media and through blogs and such, we knew that we had a really great opportunity to be in the same rooms that everybody else was going to be in. And so from there, we absorbed as much information as we could. We were pretty much a sponge, and we were listening to podcasts. We were reading as many books as we could. And through that journey, which is a little bit long, so I'm going to condense it, through that journey until now, like we've built our business on like, how can we create the biggest impact in communities? And with that, we've closed on like 5 properties total with 388 apartments. So we're really excited to be able to like give back to that many people, because that's really what this whole entire business is about.
So you've done big acquisitions then.
Yeah.
What made you go jump straight into big multifamily? By how the usual, usually people start from 1 to 4 units. What made you do that? What made it make the most sense to y'all? And then how were you able to just jump all the way to that with such a big steep learning curve? As much people, to many people, would be very intimidating. Please explain that.
Yeah, absolutely, Anthony. And so like the thing is like, it all was a kind of slow progression. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Despite what people say, like it is a slow progression. And I'll say at the very beginning of this, like real estate investing, no matter what aspect you do, is very, very simple. However, the whole process is not easy, right? Like it's simple, but it's not easy, right? And here's what I mean by that. So like at first, when we first realized this real estate, the power of real estate, and we're convinced like this is what we need to do, take our money out of the stock market of the casino and put it in more tangible hard assets like real estate. We attended a bunch of conferences like Suzy was mentioning. One of those conferences was like a real estate investing, like a veterans real estate investing conference, where it taught us everything, from single family investing to multifamily to self-storage and whatever, right? Like every kind of flavor, flipping, wholesaling, stuff like that. After that, and we also had all these great opportunities to chat with the speakers afterwards in like a Q&A session, because we had a VIP package, whatever. From that, what ended up happening is we decided that we were going to go the single family route. We're like, it seems safe, right? We can buy it with our own money. We don't have to worry about building these partnerships and things like that, other than just like a realtor on the ground and some contractors and a property management company, right? So we decided to go that route initially. We did a bunch of market research on trying to find the right market, and so that we ended up settling on a market in the Midwest. And what ended up happening is we got 2 doors under contract, and then the unthinkable happened, and an inland hurricane came through and like took out like 60% of the trees. The city was out power for like weeks and weeks. And we realized that, all the contractors were not concerned with rehabbing our, rental properties. They're more concerned with rebuilding the entire city. And we're like, it was a very devastating thing for the city. It was going to take a year to kind of like recover. And I think they're still recovering a little bit from this. And this is, over a year ago now, like maybe 14 months ago or something like that. Anyways, Suzy and I took a step back from that. We're like, well, what do we do now? Like we spent all this time building the team for single family investments and stuff like that. What do we do? And so we looked at our goals, and one of our goals in 5 years was to move into multifamily. And now going back to that real estate investing conference that we went to, one of the breakout rooms was with this gentleman. His name was Whitney Sewell from LifeBridge Capital. And he looked me right in the face and he said, Michael, you don't have to start with single family. You can jump straight into multifamily. And I was like, man, you're crazy. Like there's no way I can buy, tens of millions of dollars worth of property in one go, right? Without like, earning, learning everything about it and earning my way up to that amount of units at one time. And anyways, when he said that, it planted like a seed in the back of my head. And I was like, it was back there, but it didn't have any water yet. And so this period where now an inland hurricane came through, like our whole investment thesis kind of shot in the water. We had to take a step back and we had to pivot and not panic, right? So we decided to pivot towards multifamily. And so from there, we started attending different networking sessions. These networking sessions were with people who were investing in multifamily, right? We're getting in the rooms with the people who are doing the things we want to do, because that is just a huge mindset shift for you. Because like when you get in these rooms and these people are there like, oh, I've closed on 1,000 units, or I've closed on like, 2,000 units. I have, 50 million or $100 million of assets under management. Like, you're like, hang on, like that guy or that girl, like looks just like me, talks like me, is very similar to me, like if they're doing it, why can't I do it? And so it's huge mindset shift. And so from there, we're like, oh, if they can do it, we can do it. And so we started like building slowly, building the team that we needed. building relationships with brokers, commercial brokers, building relationships with commercial property management companies, building relationships with commercial lenders, like all the pieces that we needed. And also from all those networking sessions as well, we were introduced to one of our mentors who ended up becoming just an organic mentor who's like a really close friend of ours now. Not somebody that we paid or anything like that. He just like was very, very kind. And we were very fortunate for him to be able to just open up his mind and let us ask any questions that we wanted. And so from there, that gave us the confidence we needed in order to start putting LOIs or letter of intents on properties, these larger multifamily properties to purchase. So sorry, that's a little long-winded.
No,
but,
no.
The whole process is simple, but it's very difficult, right? Like from start to finish, and you just have to show up every single day and work towards that end goal, right?
And so where did you know to even start to look for these organic relationships? Were all your answers at the conference, or at least your starting block was at the conference, and then you was able to kind of branch out from there? Or was your mentor be able to provide you some networking or some contacts?
Well, we were just going to meetups. We were probably going to like 8 meetups every week.
Wow.
And we went to like 20 conferences in 2020. So it was actually that consistency.
Wow.
So when other people saw us in the space, they would, have, I don't want to say like referrals, but they would give us contacts, but it was just from us, like calling people, like we'd look in forums and ask for advice, or we would just start looking people up of who was in the area. Like eventually our mentor gave us contacts, but that's not where we started with, because we had to learn, how to do it on our own. But then it was like, hey, we've talked to 5 property management companies and none of them are really fitting our style. Like, who would you recommend? And that's when he would bring it up. But it was not like, oh, here is my Rolodex for you, because then it takes out the whole entire learning curve. And that's not what a mentor is supposed to do either, right?
Exactly.
Like they're supposed to be like a leader and not just give us all the answers. And that's not what we wanted either.
Do you feel like your due diligence had to be even more on point, being that you were overseas?
Yes. And we had a boots on the ground, which made a huge, huge difference. But even by like more on point.
And at some point, did you physically have to fly over there? And so how often?
Oh, so the first time I was actually ever able to go was like, I just got back a week ago. That was my first time I've ever been there. So, it took 9 months for us to see one of our properties in person, just because of all the travel restrictions, like with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't able to travel easily at all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, boots on ground definitely helped.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we knew that's what we needed. Like we just needed partners in the area. Like that's what we knew we were missing from like what Michael and I could bring. And so we just like made sure that the person that we had on the ground was somebody that we really trusted.
Yeah. And just to add to that as well, as like being this far away from our assets, like we're over 4,000 miles away, right? Like that really makes us think very strategic and like operationally, like how we need to run our business being this far away. Like it's basically like, because if we were closer to the asset, maybe we would pop by and look at something, or, hey, we need to talk to this vendor, or, hey, go check and see if this work was done correctly, and things like that. Like we would be more involved. We would be more involved as far as like stopping by and wasting time versus being more strategic about like what systems and processes we need to have in place in order to make sure that those things we can't do are done, right? So like it helped us scale our business so quickly because we weren't there in the thick of it, if you will. We were thinking from like a strategic viewpoint, right, the entire time, right? So it just really helped our business grow that way.
I like that perspective. I think that's actually, I never thought about it like that. But yeah, you're trying to be a lot more, I have lost words. You're trying to be understand when you look at the whole project, you're like, all right, where can I make the most of my time? So that I'm not wasting this email, right? Because I need to be very clear, concise, and whatever short meetings that we have, because you still work, right? So like you, when I say you, I'm talking about Michael, if those that can't see me pointing. But when you have a job, and for those that's also listening to, Mike is making it clear that, hey, you can do this while still working. You can be an operator of a syndication. I'm pretty sure it's hard work and a lot of time, but it's definitely possible. And I think that's the biggest thing that people always, that's the first excuse. I don't have enough time. Right. Yeah. Or yours could have been, hey, I'm 5,000 miles away. I can't do this at all. But y'all overcame those obstacles or those excuses that anybody could have came up with. So I really like that about y'all, and you figured out a system that works, right? You looked at it. I like the fact that you said pivot, not panic, and I like the fact that y'all also made an opportunity out of an obstacle. So that's my O and O. You had your P and P.
Yeah, just because like so many people talk about how like they want more time with their families, or more time, to be able to travel, or more time to like be more generous in their community. Well, like if you're at the asset every single day, like you're literally back into a job, you know what I mean? And like, so it defeats the entire purpose. So we're like, okay, how can we do this? Because there were a while, like even when I was full-time, like in my traditional 9 to 5, like we were waking up at 4:00 in the morning and not going to bed until 11 or midnight. And we just did it long enough to where we knew that we had to make a change. And that's why I did this, like made the transition. But even as a military spouse, like with every move, it's really difficult on the spouse if they have to stop work and start work and stop work and start work.
Yeah.
So this was just like a huge like shift for our family, because now with each move and each transition, like I will continue to have work no matter where we go. Because when we first moved here, like it took me 9 months to get a visa. I had just gotten my MBA and then I couldn't work. I was like, this is really like, it hurts your identity. But then when I did like the identity, like detached my job title from my identity, it got easier. But now I don't ever have to feel, like that loss of not being able to like be a part of like a job community. So that is really helpful. From that
I like the fact that you mentioned that associating your identity with your job, because I hear a lot of military spouses, unless you're like a nurse, a lawyer, maybe police officer, something like that, it is very hard to find a job everywhere you go. Real estate, especially when you're doing it remotely, hey, it doesn't change. I still have my computer, my cell phone, and the internet, so I should be able to still do what I need to do. So I like the fact that you mentioned that because it gives some type of flexibility and opportunity for those that feel like they're kind of pigeonholed to follow their military spouse wherever they go. So I think that gets, what made y'all pick the multifamily asset class versus like maybe storage or warehouse or industrial? What made y'all go with multifamily?
Like, because we strongly believe it's like the most recession resistant. And so for us, it just seemed like the safest for us, for our investors. And what I just mean by safe is like where our comfort level is with risk. Yeah.
When you think about the end of the day, everybody's always going to need somewhere to live, right? Mm-hmm. So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, and I'll let Suzy kind of piggyback on this here in a second, is we wanted to look for the biggest opportunity to make the most impact on the most number of people we could, right? Yeah. Our huge thing is we focus on a different ROI, and that's return on impact. And by doing so, like we're able to make an impact in the communities, the apartment communities that we acquire. So in those residents' lives, but also the surrounding communities, making, if it's a rundown community, right? Like it's attracting, potentially, people, it becomes unsafe location and things like that. So like going in, rehabbing, adding exterior renovations and things like that to make it nice, comfortable, safe place for people to live. Like we're making an impact not only in those residents' lives, but also the community around, right? And then, making an impact, if you think about the ripple effect, right? It affects the police officers in the area, and it affects city council members, and it affects, just keep going further and further out as you look at it. But that was one of the other reasons why is like, we can make the most impact in the most number of people's lives. And that's a huge priority for us.
That is actually my most favorite part about syndications is adding value. So not only does when you add value, it helps the operators, it helps the limited partners, but then it also helps the community as well. So when you refinance or sell it eventually 3 to 5 years down the road, everybody essentially wins. And then I like the fact that you talk about return on impact. And so the biggest thing is affordable housing, right? So when you're buying these 100-unit multifamily apartment complexes, the hardest thing is, minimum wage and then being able to afford whatever the inflation rent has, because you've seen how things have affected rent in the last, let's say 18 months. Rent has skyrocketed, but wages have not. And so I think when the syndications or the syndicators, they have immediate impact on being able to still keep people from being homeless, while still adding value. Because if you're finding a good deal, you've added so much value. You bought, in comparison to what you bought it for and how much you've increased the value of the property, you'll make your money back, even if your rent is probably $100 less than the market in the area. Mm-hmm. And so I love that. I love that concept. I think it works very well, and you're affecting a community, because some of these towns, if you bought 150 unit building, that's probably the biggest one in the area, close to supermarkets and shopping centers. So yeah, you're definitely affecting it, and it's not like big corporate. It's still private. You still got private individuals with private capital being able to make that change. I think that is I love that more than I do buying property by property, to be honest, because I got frustrated buying one by one on a block I was trying to change, but it wasn't happening quick enough. But talking to one of my friends now, he's in the Navy as well, and we're like, you know what, we could change 40 lives or 40 families' lives if we do it like this, with just the help of other people, versus maybe one family or 3 or 4 families at a time. We buy a triplex or fourplex. So I love the fact that y'all emphasize on that.
Yeah, because like housing is just like a basic need, right? And when you cover like the basic need, like people can start to then like think one level above that or live their life one level above that. And that's phenomenal in itself, right? Because thinking about not having a house is really, 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 really stressful. But like when that can be taken away and when you feel like safe where you live, then everything then like a lot changes within your mindset and within yourself, like whether you know it or not, right? Like if you have a house that you can go to every single day that you like actually enjoy being at, it makes a huge difference. Like even in like with your friends or with your family, right? Because like if you don't like where you live or something's bothering you about it all the time, like you bring that back into your work, you bring that when you hang out with your friends, because like majority of the time when you get into that safe place, like unfortunately, people are talking about things that bother them. And so when you can just like X-nay that part and like hopefully bring the level of energy up, like that makes a huge difference.
You're right. And I like the fact that when it comes to syndications, you've shown leadership. And so I think that's a learning trait I want people to also take in consideration, is that you're affecting tenants that are living in these properties, but you're also having to lead the LPs, the other operators in the mix, the other capital groups, and to put all that together and get everybody clicking on the same page, I think is phenomenal as well. So there's different attributes, right? And you have some people, hey, I'm the underwriter, I'm just good at underwriting. But that there needs to be a leader in that aspect, and y'all have definitely gotten that down pat from a remote standpoint, and that I think is a testament to how much y'all really took your time and did your due diligence when it came to doing syndication. Where can people find you? I want people to be able. You guys are like the poster children for like, hey, look, nothing gets in the way. No matter how far I am, nothing will get in the way of me being able to do what I want to do wherever it's at in the world, actually.
No, yeah, that's a great question. So you can like find a lot of our info at Adventurous REI/info. And that's where you can learn about more of return on impact and like connect with Michael and I via LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to learn like how to make an impact or how we're making an impact, how you can implement it, or even just be a part of it with us, if you go to adventurousrei.com/impact, you can find a whole guide there where we like go step by step through it and talk about more like about how impact just changes so many people and how you can implement it into like your life.
Awesome. And then my final question, your rich state of mind, what is your big why as to why y'all got started and why y'all continuously are in syndicating, investing in real estate?
No, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. So like I have been a coach and a mentor, and Michael has been a professor and will be a professor. So when we were thinking about our why, we were like, okay, how can we continue to like serve and educate people outside of a traditional classroom? And what we want to do, like our big why is that like once Michael can retire from the military, we want to actually go and live in different third world countries and like establish ourselves in a community and figure out like what they need the most. Like, do they need a well? Do they need a school? Like, what can we put into place that will actually work for them? Like, it has nothing to do with us. We want it to just work for them so that like their community can become a better place. Cause like, even just through like basic education. So if a school does work in a particular place, like you can solve so many like very small issues with just basic education, right? And that's huge within itself, you know, because so many people still don't know how to learn or write. And like I think, take that for granted. And so being able to just give that back is huge. And that's how we can still keep like the love for education, like with us.
I love that answer. And not that there's any wrong or right answer, but the fact that going around and, throughout the world and be able to do things that's, doesn't necessarily benefit, you guys, but benefits these third world countries. I think that's pretty awesome. First time actually I'm hearing an answer like that as well. Cool. It's quite a mission. I mean, you could do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, even once we've lived like over here, right. And like gotten able to see more of the world, like the world just has so much more to offer. And yes, there are also a lot of people in the United States who are like below the poverty line and also need help, but like so much else of the rest of the world also needs that. And like, we just want to be able to serve those people just because the world can just be such a much better place. And even if we just do it in one little pockets at a time, then that's okay. But that's really what like drives us forward every day.
Yeah. And I'll be able to retire from the military. I'll be 42, 43. So after that, we're going to be able to leverage real estate investing, being potentially more passive at that time as well. And if we want to be active, we set it up where we can be active from anywhere in the world, right? Because we're already 5,000 miles away from our properties now. What's the difference between 5 and 10 and 15, 20,000 miles away?
Exactly.
Right? So, it's just a different time zone, and that's basically it.
It's funny. Y'all setup is very similar to my wife's and I, because I plan to retire, live off my retirement disability. Same with her, and then we just have the flexibility to just be full-time real estate.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
amazing.
So if everything goes down, hey, I still got my retirement check. We still have some type of income coming in.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
No, I love that. Thank you so much, Suzy and Michael, for sharing your time with me this morning. We also have a mutual person as well, Mike Cavagioni. I think you're on episode 50 of his. So your Average Joe Finances, if those that have not listened to that podcast, please listen to that episode 50 with Michael and Suzy. It's a pretty good podcast. So
thanks.
Thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anthony. It's such a pleasure being on your show.
Thank you for sticking with us from the start of the episode. Please share our show with friends and family, visit our YouTube channel, and view more of our content on richstateofmind.com. See you next week on the Rich State of Mind Show.